Hi and welcome back to This Miracle Beauty. My name is Brandy and this is a beauty review channel. We do unboxings, empties, monthly favorites, reviews, as well as tutorials. If that's something you're interested in, I hope that you will click the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Make sure you do choose your actual notifications. If you don't, it's not guaranteed that you will get any. So as you can see from the title, this is the comparison of 4 of the Makeup Forever foundations. One of them a new release, most of them an older release. I think it went new, 1 year old estimated, and then the other ones are 3 and 4 years old. All of these foundations are still currently sold both on the Makeup Forever website as well as Sephora's website, and they do have pretty decent ratings on Sephora. One of them I was kind of surprised, but the rest of them are all pretty good. So I'm going to start with my favorite and kind of work out from there. They're not in any particular order as far as like this is the best and that's the worst. It's just this one is one I'm very passionate about. I've actually finished 2 full bottles and almost a third, and so it's one of those ones that, you know, I have a lot to say about that one, whereas the other ones I only tried a few times, so there's a little bit less there. So the first one is the Makeup Forever HD Ultra HD Foundation, and I am in R230 in this. So this is one that I think it was my first high-end foundation, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the very first, and I fell in love with it. First of all, it's an amazing color match. It matches so well every single time. I can use pretty much any product with it. I don't think I've ever had a product that didn't or that interacted with it or anything like that. So also it lasts 12 hours. So before this pandemic, I actually worked 2 jobs. So I would get ready at 5 or 6 in the morning, and then I would actually get home after 10 typically. It would still look good when I got home. Like I might have a little bit of breakage around my nose or wrinkling or creasing around my mouth at almost the 12, past 12 hours. I mean, 6 to 6, so it's like 16 hours, but it definitely lasts 12 and with 0 touch-ups particularly. So right now is allergy season. I've been sneezing and having to blow my nose, and nose is running and everything else, and having to take allergy meds. And this one actually held up. I didn't have anything by my eyes where my eyes typically water from my allergies. My nose, it hardly ever wiped off until later in the night when I tested this again the other day, just to kind of refresh my memory and how it looked and everything. I had horrible allergies that day. I'm like, there's no way this is going to last on my nose till the end of the day. It literally just had a little bit right in this area right here where you actually can wipe. So that's the only place I lost coverage. So that is absolutely perfect to me. When it does wear off, it does wear off gracefully. It doesn't just create holes or separations. It just kind of wipes away. So at the end of the day with this, I wore it I think 10 hours, and I had a little bit of wear off on my forehead and my nose, which is normal for me, especially if I'm in any heat or anything like that. So that is my hot spots. The other thing about this one is it can be built up. Just on the base level, it is a medium coverage. We'll show a little bit of freckling, a little bit of like my skin, but it looks like skin. However, you can build it up to be full coverage. So I am going to insert here a video of me applying it and what it looked like at the end when all of my makeup was completed. So here I am. I tried one pump first and was using the brush on my face, trying to compare the brush versus sponge. This does go on light medium, the first layer, especially if I find the brush gives a little bit better coverage, but really not that much overall. So that is the sponge, and I'm just going to try to apply it. I did, again, have it on the back of my hand and needed to add more because the sponge does soak up more. However, at this point, I believe this is one of the ones I did not have a mirror. I was using my viewfinder to try to use it. So it's unfortunately sunrise as well, as you can see. But that is the finished look after I had completed the rest of my makeup. So that was the Ultra HD foundation. So the next one I have is actually the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Stick Foundation. So this is the first time I've ever used this stick foundation. I'm not a huge fan of them typically. In fact, today I'm wearing a combination of Wander Beauty Stick Foundation and Hourglass, I can't remember that one's called, the Hourglass Stick Foundation though. And the Hourglass is too light. I can't wear it on its own, and then the Wander breaks down too fast, so I can't wear that on its own. But together they do typically make a good match. But it's something about it, I prefer liquid or powder. So this one I've been wanting to try though, because I had heard people who don't prefer stick foundations really enjoy this one and thought it worked really well, and it does supposed to have on par with the Ultra HD liquid foundation. So it does look like this, and again I'm in R230. So this is one that I honestly was a little shocked about. Again, people kept telling me that I would be, but I didn't kind of buy into that. So this is the easiest blend of all of these combined. It just smooth like butter, and it builds really easy. It doesn't look cakey, and I'm going to insert a video of this as well. It doesn't look cakey. It looks smooth. It looks gorgeous. It did react to 2 powders that I used, but I will say I'm not sure if it was that or me, because I kind of was not paying attention, and also I started looking and it was looking really cake face, and so I washed off and started over, and it was fine the second time. So that could have been user error. This is another one that actually wears off gracefully. I actually had no loss on my forehead, but my nose and just my smile lines had a little bit of noticeable wear off, and it can last like 12-16 hours like this one would, depending on your prep work. I found that when I didn't use a primer, or I used a too moisturizing of a primer, it didn't typically last that long. However, when I use the base or the prep work is good, it will last all day and into the night, and that's something that I personally look for. The ease of use, it is almost a liquidy consistency. Like most of the stick foundations that I've tried have more of a, they're a cream versus a liquid. This almost turns to a liquid on your skin, which I think helps it blend, and it blends with cream products really well. I used it with the new Fenty blush and bronzer, and it was smooth like butter. It blended perfectly, and I had no issues with it. So that is the Ultra HD foundation stick. I am going to insert in now a video of me applying it originally, and this was actually my first application, first time ever using it, and then it will also show you what it looked like after all of my makeup was completed.
So as I said, I'm not normally a fan of the stick foundations. However, this one I'd heard quite a bit about, so I did want to try it. It goes on so creamy. I mean, it really is like using a liquid that's just a little bit firmer. It's not a really creamy one. Again, this one goes on a little bit better coverage than the liquid. However, it does have the need for more than one layer if you'd like to go above light medium. It does not get cakey when you layer it, neither does the HD foundation I did previously. However, it's just something you want to watch as you layer, that you're only layering where you need it. Like I try not to do too many layers on my forehead, on the sides of my nose, but on my cheeks where I have freckles and redness, and on my chin, I do tend to put a little bit more. So with this one, I did add it to my forehead because it was, first of all, very luminous, and it was not getting cakey, so I did add more. So this is just me applying it in, again, brush side and sponge side. You can see at this point I do have a mirror that I'm looking in. So this is the finish of the foundation. I've pretty much got to the end, and I'm just touching things up and making sure that the coverage is equal around my face. This is my finished look. I did use powder products with all of these.
Foundation to me, but because it's so moisturizing and glowy, your skin does feel good. You don't feel it on your skin at all. Like I'm wearing the stick foundation from Hourglass and Wonder right now. I can feel it. Like it's not heavy, but it's there. This, I felt absolutely nothing. It was just really a nice smoothing foundation. It does wear off a little bit less gracefully than its sisters. So my nose wore off first. I would say maybe 6 to 7 hours in, my nose was wore off. Not to the point that if you're like from here 3 feet away, you're not even going to be able to see it. But if you're talking to me right in front of me, you're going to be able to see it. So I was thankful for the quarantine that day. But this one is also one that I feel like it could be used with a brush or a sponge, whereas I don't even think I remember to mention that. But if you use the other ones, I personally think a sponge works better. This one you can use either one because it is lighter coverage, and you do get a great smooth canvas either way. I feel like this would be great for short-term makeup days in the summer, meaning if you're sweating and everything else. I don't think that this will last over 5 to 6 hours. However, if you have, just a party or an evening or something, I think it will be fine, especially if you are in air conditioning versus the summer heat. In Michigan, we get to the 80s and 90s pretty regularly. Don't think this would hold up in that, but I'm going to insert a video here of me applying it. This is the very first time or second time I applied it. I can't remember for this one, and what my end result look with all my makeup on look like. So I'm going to insert that here.
So this is the, I think, second time I've tried this. It is not a first impression. It does take a little bit more. It is light coverage. I am trying it on one side with the brush, and then I will again do the other side with a sponge. I only recently started using foundation brushes, so I'm definitely not an expert. Well, I'm not an expert at anything, but definitely not with foundation brushes. But for the Reboot, I did feel like the brush gave a lot better coverage, whereas the other two, it was kind of split. It definitely left less brush marks with the Reboot as well. So I always do go over my entire face with a sponge, even if I use a brush. However, if you could see, this is light coverage. However, it's I would say between light and medium. I did do 2 layers, and I thought it did a really good job without caking. My skin looks like skin. There's still freckles. There's still, you know, imperfections. So this is the finished look here. I was really impressed with how this turned out. I thought it was very glowy. I thought it looked very good. I didn't have any issues with it, so I thought it was a pretty good one.
So last of all, we have the Makeup Forever Powder Foundation. This is the Matte Velvet Skin. And I had heard pretty good things about this, so I was pretty excited to try it. I do have, again, R230 in this, and it does look like this. So this is one that I should have actually got a shade lighter. This is to start before anything is on your skin. It is much darker than the normal or R230s I have in the liquids. So if I ever catch this on sale, I do plan to pick up a lighter shade. So what's the deal with this one? First of all, you have to be really sparingly because you can get cake face really, really fast because it is powder foundation that is so full coverage. The shade's not aligning perfectly, and the fact you can get cake face are some of the first things I would want to mention. However, there are some absolute beautiful things about this. First of all, this ages better than any of those foundations. At one of the days, I did have a little bit of cake face like right here and in my smile lines, and I used that blending brush to kind of smooth it out, and then it lasted. I didn't have any issue until, I don't think I washed my face till 9 o'clock at night, and I put it on about 9 or 10 in the morning. So it definitely is one of the longest lasting foundations I've used of powder foundations. It doesn't blur away, and when it ages, it doesn't crack and look ridiculous. It kind of just wears away, much like his sisters. So this is one that you can use, and this isn't for all powder foundations, but this one you can use as a setting or finishing powder as to add coverage as well as a foundation. So it's honestly really gorgeous either way. It's all in how you use it. And this one, like the Ultra HD liquid, held up for my allergies all day. I had watery eyes, I had to blow my nose 100 times. Like, it still looked really good when I washed it off. And I used a glowy primer underneath. I did use the Touch of Soul Glassy Skin Balm underneath, and it looked stunning. It was very glowy. I didn't look matte. I didn't look dry. Powder foundations, being 41, I have to be really careful about how I apply them and what types I use because sometimes they can age me and make me look like a Benjamin Button in the beginning. So definitely one that I like. I actually love this with the Reboot to increase the coverage. It actually looks really cute. I forgot to film a video for that portion, so if that's something you're interested in seeing, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. But I'm going to insert now a video in here of me applying this. It's the very first time I ever used it and how the end result looked when I was done.
So this is a first impression. This is the first time I've ever used the foundation. I did try it on the back of my hand. So when I purchased this, I didn't realize you are supposed to get a shade lighter or even 2. I bought my normal R230, and as you can see, it is much too dark. I'm hoping in summer, as I get a little bit of a tan, it will help. Once it was all blended in and down my neck, it didn't look atrocious, but definitely not my shade. If it goes on sale again, I may purchase a lighter shade, but you know, I just don't like paying products that are $39 twice. So I'm not sure what I'll do with this one. So it does look pretty as a powder to give coverage over liquid. So we'll see how I end up using it. It did go on well. It's one of those that it didn't look like you had any coverage, and then all of a sudden you had a ton of coverage. So I felt like it was very easy to go overboard if you weren't careful. So it's something I do suggest is doing a little bit at a time. I also did use a buffing brush to kind of smooth things over before I put on the rest of my makeup, just to make sure it was blended in really well. As you can see from the video, I did try both sides of it. I did prefer the black side. I know a lot of people preferred the white side, but I did prefer the black side and how it did it. And here's where I'm using the brush to try to kind of buff it in and see if I can get a little bit better coverage. I actually did prefer the brush over the sponge that comes with it, which again is kind of contrary to a lot of the videos I've seen. But I just thought it blended it better. I thought it looked better. And I thought it helped make the color difference, you know, not as noticeable. My biggest areas of concern were next to my nose and under my eyes. I didn't love it under my eyes. I probably would skip that area or use concealer that I don't have to bring down there next time. And this is the finished look. I wasn't mad at it. I liked it. It looked glowy. It looked pretty. It definitely, you could tell it was a color difference, but, you know, it just was a big difference.
So that was the application and the review or first impression of each one of these foundations. So I thought it'd be kind of good to rank them now that I've tried them all. Now that I've used them more than once, and one of them like a few bottles worth, but I thought that I would rank them and give them what I thought that they would be as far as best to worst. So it might shock anybody who's watched my channel for a little while, but I actually think number one would be the stick foundation. This one is just so easy to blend, and in summer I do love cream products. I like to not powder everything, and this one is one I absolutely could do it. It does dry down enough that I could use it, my cream products, and it would dry and I wouldn't have to set it. It's stunning, but it's actually more than it's pretty. It's because of the easy use. This foundation is one of the easiest foundations I have ever used in my entire life. Like, it blended easy. I didn't have to fight with it. I didn't work with it. I didn't have to manipulate it. It's the very first time I used it was beautiful, and it has been each time since. So that's definitely something that it puts it at number one. Number two is probably no shock. This is my Liquid Ultra HD by Makeup Forever. This is one that, again, I've used 2.5 bottles because the other bottle I received from someone else was not quite my shade, and it expired as I was trying to get it used. So now that this is my 4th bottle of this, 3rd in my shade, I don't think I'll have any problem using this one up as well. It's just an easy foundation. It does what you need it to. You can use your brush, your sponge, your hands. It all works. When I'm half asleep in the morning and ready for work, you'd be amazed how many different ways I do my makeup. So that one definitely is number 2. Number 3, I'm actually going to put the powder in. I almost thought about putting the Reboot there because I really like all 4 of these. This doesn't mean the Reboot sucks because it's the last. However, this one, because of the duality, that you can use it as a setting powder that adds a little bit of coverage, or as a foundation, and that to me increases the value of the item. Again, I just strongly suggest that you go down a bit in the shade, because this one, I don't know if this would even be my summer shade. Like, this is the same exact shade as this, but it's much deeper. This is also a little bit more pink tone than my R230, which is a pink tone foundation, but this one's even more pink tone, so I have to be careful in how I use it. But I definitely put this as number 3. And lastly, again, this is not by any means a criticism of the foundation. I really, truly love it. However, the Makeup Forever Reboot I am putting in 4th purely for the sheer fact that it's less coverage, which is what it's designed for. That's not a criticism of the product, but for my use, that's why it's number 4. But also because it doesn't last more than about 6 hours so far. I am going to keep trying it and seeing if I use more of, like, maybe my Hydro Grip primer or my e.l.f. sticky primer, see if I get it to last longer. But the 3 or 4 times I tried it, it just wasn't lasting past 6-7 hours. I think one of the times it was like 5, but I think it all depends on what you use with it. So that is my review of 4 of the Makeup Forever foundations. They do have I think 2 others, if I'm not mistaken. They have a matte one, and then they have like a glowy one. So these are the Makeup Forever foundations. If you like this review, I hope that you will click the like button, and I hope that you will subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. And if there's a foundation brand you'd like to see a comparison or review from, I hope that you will post that down below. I'd be happy to see if that's something I can do. Have a great day, guys.